these pictures look like something that your kid draws in like first grade and they bring it home to you and you stick it on the fridge, even though it looks like shit.
Right.
But that's basically what it is.
And it's almost like Jeremy spoke in class today.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Welcome aboard.
Jean-Luc Picard to the Starship Enterprise.
You want to review your rapid progress?
That nonsense is centuries behind us. To the Starship Enterprise.
Oh, yeah?
That is enough, damn it!
Tempo, mon capitan.
To the Starship Enterprise.
You can't deny that you're still a dangerous, savage child race.
Of the planet Earth.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
Heldor Joy, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a comedy Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And Allie, answer the communicator. We've got a call coming in. Answer the communicator.
Oh, shit. I'm trying to get to the phone. Hello?
Warp to Captain. Incoming transmission. It is coded Priority 1.
Put it through, Mr. Worf.
I do want to remind everyone, you can call us and leave us voice messages. This is something that you're not using enough, and I'd love more people to call in. And the number is 920-550-TREK, 920-550-8735. Call, leave us a message. We'd love to hear from you. We have some text communiques this week that we want to talk about.
Cool.
A couple of feedbacks from the Blue Sky. As you know, we shut down our Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok in the wake of this fascist tech bro takeover of everything. We left all the bad places, and Blue Sky seems to be the new happening place. We have connected with a lot of folks there, so that's the place to find us now. We're also on Mastodon too, but the engagement and the connecting with people, it's not quite the same as the way Blue Sky works. So here's a couple comments from the Blue Sky. First, from Toasted Almond, at Toasted Almond.
Okay. Hey, Toasted Almond. What's up?
Am enjoying Humanist Trek and have started a rewatch of TNG. I need the comfort and joy of watching something familiar. Oh, amen.
That's what we do. That's how we roll.
Have enjoyed Sarah and Allie's takes, but am still working out whether I like doing my rewatch before or after I listen to the podcast. That is an interesting question. I wonder, that would be a good poll question. Do folks watch the episode before and then listen to the podcast, or not at all?
Or maybe do both. Like, watch it, listen to the podcast, and then watch it again. Like, I mean, wouldn't that be...
That's a lot of dedication, though. I don't know about that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But our jokes would land better, probably.
Probably. The next one comes to us from Sage at She Treks on Blue Sky.
Hey, Sage.
Sage says, this Star Trek newbie is enjoying learning about the franchise from Humanist Trek.
Oh, I love it. Oh.
What a great review. We appreciate that. Rate and review us wherever you can do that, by the way. Finally, our last message. Friend of the show, Dr. Aaron McDonald, science advisor to the Star Trek Empire, writes,
Whoop, whoop.
Hi, friends. I'm reaching out because we've launched a crowdfund for a new short film. Remember, we talked about with Aaron that she has a production company that has been producing short films. Jessie Gender was one of those, I think the first. This is a new short film, a transgrounded sci-fi film written and directed by Tilly and Susan Bridges, who we are social media friends with. Aaron is producing it with Jessie Gender.
Nice.
So they just announced this crowdfunding project, and if you're interested or able to help support that effort to get this short film made, that would be amazing. And we will have a link in the show notes for how you can go and do that. But let's talk a little bit about the short film. It's called Long Away. Victoria travels 25 years into her own past to meet a man she barely remembers, her father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and hopes he will love her for who she is. Written and directed by Tilly and Susan Bridges, this transgrounded sci-fi film is based on a comic they wrote about memory and love. So, imagine a world where my dad passed away before I transitioned, and he never knew me as Sarah. And if I could go back in time and meet him and try to get his approval, and that's kind of the thesis of this project. And I think it's interesting.
That's pretty deep, though, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Long Away is a very personal story and is semi-autobiographical, partly based on co-writer and director Tilly Bridges' own life and the father she lost at the age of 5. It's difficult to try to reckon with parents who never knew the real you, in wondering what her father would think about her and her transition if she could tell him. Tilly and her wife / co-writer and director Susan imagine what Tilly would hope to get out of such an encounter and what experiencing something like that might do to the human heart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This will be a 15-minute short film. It'll be making a festival run. And the whole point is to try to increase understanding of what we, the trans community, go through. Our experiences that are different from cisgender experiences. I think this is fantastic. I love this so much.
Me too. Me too.
The goal is $12,700. That's the minimum. That covers all of the equipment rental, the cruise time, locations, all of that basic filming stuff. And then, of course, there are stretch goals if they exceed that. This is a 30-day crowdfund campaign. So
Oh, wow.
get on it. Right now, run, don't walk. The link is tinyurl.com/longawaystort. We'll have a link in the show notes so that you can get directly to it. But yeah, go right now and support this really creative project that will help tell the stories from the trans community, written, directed, produced, and acted by trans people. So let's show our support to Tilly and Susan and everyone working on this project. tinyurl.com/longawaystort. Make it so. We absolutely love all the messages that we get from you. And again, please call us, leave us voicemails. You're welcome to send the text communiques to our email. Leave us messages on the social medias. We love all of those things. Just please don't call the crystalline entity and send it at us to destroy us. Like they do this week on Star Trek The Next Generation. It's Season 1, Episode 13, Datalore.
Commander, you'll soon be getting an intruder alert.
What? I've got something, sir.
Intruder alert, sir.
It's an old-style starship, sir. Constellation class, heading this way under impulse com.
Number 1, kindly take charge of our guests until we have time to decide what we're going to do with them. Sir, number 1, keep them out of my way.
This week, the Enterprise is taking Data back to visit the old farm where he grew up. I love this so much. Picard's like, we're due at our next mission, but I thought, what the hell? Let's take the scenic route and visit Data's home planet. Like, literally, we're just stopping off on our way to do an actual mission because we're in the neighborhood. I love it.
Yeah, that's cool. So wherever they were, wherever their last assignment was, brought them into this remote Omicron Theta star system, which happens to be, we're near where Data was quote unquote born. So yeah, why not? Let's make a pit stop.
So we're 20 minutes away from the planet, and Data's not on the bridge. He's in his room practicing sneeze imitation when Wesley drops by.
Have the boy sent to the bridge, number 1.
My name is Wesley.
It's Wesley I wanted to speak to you about. The boy?
My name is Wesley.
He seems to have developed some sort of special attachment to the boy.
My name is Wesley.
Did he say Wesley? The boy?
My name is Wesley.
What is the boy doing here?
My name is Wesley.
The boy, where is he, please?
My name is Wesley.
The boy? He's outside.
My name is Wesley.
Wesley Crusher, report to the bridge. On the double.
I wondered about this, and I do this. I don't know if other people do this. Like when you're excited about something, you sort of avoid it and you focus on something else. Like, so they found it weird that he's not on the bridge, anticipating going to his home planet, but he's doing something completely opposite and random.
Mm-hmm. I think I am what they would have expected. I think I am the obsessive. If there's a thing that I'm like anxious about, I obsess about it until it happens. Like
Mhm.
I can't distract myself most of the time.
I'm Data.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like I have the avoidance technique down. Yeah.
I've decided that Data's like core personality is based on vaudeville, and it didn't really hit me until this episode. Every time they do these like Data doesn't know bits,
Mm-hmm.
and in this one, Wesley comes in and catches Data practicing sneezing, and he says, "Data, what are you doing? Do you have a cold?" And Data says, "A cold what?" But like it's very
I know
vaudeville.
it is. Oh, it's very yeah, but also he's he's so literal.
Yeah.
So it makes for some really good jokes.
Wes thinks Data should be way more excited about going back home than to care about this whole sneezing thing. And Data says he finds both subjects interesting. I think they're both interesting in different ways. But Picard wants to see Data, so back we go to the bridge, where they're just arriving to find that where there once were farmlands on this planet, there's now no life at all, not even vegetation.
As they're about to pull up and park, they have the they have the planets on the screen, and Data sort of forgets himself for a minute.
Yeah.
And he walks forward, and then he just remembers, oh wait, they're kind of staring at me. So he walks back to where Captain is standing, because he's like, oh, this is my home. He is sort of feeling, if an android can feel.
Yeah.
He's feeling something.
I very much enjoyed that visual representation of him being sort of taken aback, like taking it all in. And
Mm-hmm.
Data says, well, I could say home sweet home if I knew what the hell that meant.
But Riker just says, it usually is talking about your own memories. And he apparently was given all of the farmers, 411 farmers, memories. And Tasha was like, I can't understand how you can hold all those memories. But Data corrects her and he says, it doesn't really mean memories of their life. It just means all of the knowledge they accumulated. Because actually, he says he's quite deficient in basic human information.
Which we've seen on every episode so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, they're about to park. They're actually coming up to the parking space and they're going to go ahead and park. And the away team is going to go down to the planet minus the captain, of course, because
this ain't your daddy's Star Trek.
yeah, so the captain goes nowhere,
Yeah.
which in most cases, which it doesn't take away from anything.
Not at all. In fact, like Picard trapped on the Enterprise, unable to be there to do the thing, is a tension that actually works a lot.
Yeah.
So the away team loads into the turbo lift as Picard tells Data, welcome home.
Data. Chew! Have you got a cold?
A cold what?
Riker, Data, Tasha, Geordi, and Worf beam down to Planet Soundstage, while Riker's log tells us it's worse than not just vegetation. There's no insects, no bacteria, nothing. Completely dead world. And this has the makings for a classic Star Trek mystery.
I'm surprised they used the soundstage. I mean, it was in the 87, 88, but this looks like something right off of TOS.
Very much so. We learn that Data was discovered here 26 years ago by a Starfleet ship called Tripoli, and they've beamed down to the same coordinates that the Tripoli had. And Data recognizes the topography and points them to the location where he was found. And this, I love the sets in this episode because we got the foam rock playset set up, but there's this really neat staircase cut into it. Yeah. I loved that.
I don't know how they like come up over a hill and they walk down into this like little valley. And as they walk down the staircase, there's this sort of concrete looking square platform as if I don't want to get biblical, but Data was found by the Tripoli laying on that sort of slab.
During this, they talk about Data, still not really knowing much of the details, but he knows that the whole giving him the memory of the colonists thing was done in a hurry, and that's a thought that keeps coming back.
LaForge is poking around the area, and he's like, he thinks he's got the place figured out, and they've somehow made all of this rock look natural. And he starts feeling around, and he finds a latch.
This talk about like, oh, this looks like a doorway, and it looks like it was constructed in a hurry. This isn't natural. It dislodges a memory in Data's brain. Brain and brain. What is brain? So yeah, he remembers that the colonists were trying to hide out, but they were worried about being discovered, and that's what prompted them to put their memories in him in the first place. So there's like little bits of memory that he has. Yeah, it's all coming back. It's all coming back to me now.
But I mean, that's kind of how it is whenever you go somewhere and you haven't been in a long time. You got to walk through those same footsteps to start triggering memories. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Our brain is a computer, and it's stored in somewhere on the hard drive, and you might have to defrag, but it's there. But yeah, Geordi finds a click. He finds a little latch, and sure enough, the stone rolls away. Sorry.
And there's no Jesus inside. What happened to Jesus? Oh, God.
But anyway, it's a passageway, and they are going to go into the cave, into this huge underground complex.
Yeah, the tunnel changes from like rocky walls to a very Federation-looking, like human-made system of tunnels. And Riker finds the light switch. He's feeling along the wall for the light switch.
He knows how to turn it on.
And when the lights come on, it reveals a metric fuck ton of space grate. Did you notice how much space grate there was in this episode? And I love it. It's very Star Trek-y.
My next house is gonna be built with space grate.
Hell yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
They follow like a little corridor, and they end up in a laboratory that is fucking decked out with equipment, and things are buzzing and whizzing. And Riker asks if that brings back any memories for Data, and the only thing he says is just a vague impression of me being tested here.
And the fact that these gadgets are all still powered up again gives us that feeling of like people leaving in a hurry. They forgot to turn all their shit off. There is a 4-panel art piece on the wall, which Data also says depicts something familiar and dangerous, but he doesn't know what exactly.
These pictures look like something that your kid draws in like first grade, and they bring it home to you and you stick it on the fridge, even though it looks like shit.
Right.
But that's basically what it is.
And it's almost like Jeremy spoke in class today. Because it's like the story of Jeremy is this kid Jeremy is the very first lines are at home drawing pictures of mountaintops with him on top, lemon yellow sun, arms raised in a V, and the dead lay in pools of maroon below.
Jesus.
Yeah. So Jeremy drew this picture, I'm telling you. I love Pearl Jam. Data also remembers that this workshop belonged to a Dr. Soong, and record scratch drops, and everyone's like, wait, the Dr. Noonien Soong? Like, everybody knows this guy.
Hold up, though. Why has he not mentioned him before? I guess, I mean, I know there's a reason for this, but don't you guys talk? Don't you guys talk?
Right.
Around the water cooler, even?
And like, okay, so Data knows that this is the place he came from. He knows that this workplace, and they play it as like he just didn't remember until he was standing here and saw it, which is a very human thing. But if you've got a fucking solid state drive in your head, like you would have been able to think of this a long time ago.
Yeah, which he does. He's a fucking android.
Yep. So Soong is clearly well known as Earth's top robotic scientist who tried to make Asimov's idea of a positronic brain a reality, failed hard, and then disappeared. And apparently, after he failed on Earth, he traveled here under a fake name to try again.
Data, Geordi, and Riker want to take a closer look at the lab, and Riker tells Tasha and Worf to reconnoiter. I hate that word, but he tells them reconnoiter to see where the corridors lead and check to see if there's anyone else alive.
There's a device nearby that kind of looks like a photon torpedo tube leaned up against a wall. And this is very familiar. This is sci-fi trope extraordinaire. Anytime somebody's in hypersleep or stasis or whatever, they're in a tube like this angled tube leaning up against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Riker pushes a button, and when the lid slides open, it's not a person inside, but clear acrylic molds of a head and torso. And when Data holds the face piece up against his face, it's a perfect fit.
But then they found another spot that's this, I don't know, area behind glass full of smoke.
I loved this. This is like it's like a curved glass door, and it looks like maybe there's some tinting on it, and this gigantic cloud of dry ice swirling behind it. And it looks, I mean, the effect is so good when the door slides open and the fog clears, and there we see in pieces is another Data, and the camera pans down the torso just as Tasha walks in and goes, "Oh yeah, that's another Data, all right."
Oh my.
I did find it funny though. They had his torso, but they had it from the back. They had Data's behind. But yeah, there's Data's body parts and a head.
And Data picks it up and looks at it.
Yeah.
And this is a really well done prop too. Like, I mean, you can tell it's a fake, like
Right.
watching it now or whatever. But it was really well done.
I wonder if they like took a mold of his body.
Oh yeah.
The plastic, the clear plastic is definitely his face.
There is a seed planted in this scene that we come back to again, and it's this idea of when does the android become a living being?
Mm-hmm.
As Data calls his doppelganger he, where Riker refers to him as it.
Yes. And Data is like, could this be another me? But they also introduce these terms of endearment, if you will, saying, could this be my brother?
Yeah.
Like, he's putting those human traits on himself.
Riker's like, well, we don't know if this thing can even come alive. So if the Mac boots up, then it's he. But if not, then it's it, I guess. Riker decides to take this Data double back to the ship because that's a real fucking smart idea.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
But up until now, Data has been a unique individual in the universe. Like there are no others like him. And this is too good to not examine a little closer.
Right.
Data, it's you.
Back on the Enterprise, they've got a team assembling the android under Data's watch. And this team, I don't know if you noticed, includes old Argyle.
Yeah.
Played by Biff Yeager. I think he has one more appearance before he disgracefully departs the show.
Disgracefully? What happened?
Well, remember, he's the one that Will Wheaton said got like his ass handed to him because he was sending unsolicited messages to fans to write in and ask for more Argyle.
Mr. Argyle. Oh,
yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It's coming back to me now. I'm feeling like I'm Data.
It's all coming back.
It's all coming back to me now. I can hear this song's going to be played a lot in this episode.
At this point, it seems that Argyle is the chief engineer because Data calls him that.
Yeah.
When he asks him, like, how are things going? Crusher is there too, and this is another weird moment where nobody is sure how to speak about these androids.
Yeah, everybody's a little bit uncomfortable.
And this discomfort continues in the observation lounge, where Data joins a meeting in progress. And Riker's like, does it have all your parts? And Geordi's like, will we know how to turn it on? And Picard's like, okay, listen, everybody. This is uncomfortable, but there's no good reason for us to be uncomfortable about this. And I love his suggestion here because he's like, Data's a machine, but humans are also a kind of machine. We're an electrochemical machine. So we're all machines. Everybody just knock it the fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, I got the sense that they didn't want to offend Data in any way, and also they just didn't know how to approach this. They're calling it, but they
Right.
didn't feel quite right about it. So yeah,
Yeah.
Picard comes in with the diplomacy, but I will say he's got diplomacy there, but he fucks that all
Oh,
to hell
yes, he does.
later, and I'm still pissed about it. But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Data wonders why he was given human form, which Geordi suggests the most obvious reason would be to make it easier for the colonists to relate to Data. But Soong may have also been trying to prove something, which Picard continues, that human-shaped robots would not necessarily be clumsy or limited. And another, like, Data as Spock moment, Picard says, you certainly operate as well as we do, Data. And Data's like, better, actually. It's such a Spock move.
Actually, Riker breaks out those kid drawings, as sort of an afterthought to show to Picard. And it's like, by the way, this was in the lab. It could be just some kid's imagination, but, just wanted to bring it to your attention.
We didn't really talk about what these drawings look like. This one we get a good close-up view of. There is this large red object in the center, and it has these little spiny, spindly things coming off of it. Kind of looks like maybe a sun or a snowflake. And on the single line going left to right across the bottom, representing the ground, I still draw that way, I don't know. Three rudimentary people with very shocked faces appear to be running from it. And it is proudly signed at the bottom, of course, not by Jeremy, but by Josh.
Interesting, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe we'll talk about this at the end.
Okay.
Let me remind me to talk about the drawings, because I now have a question as far as timeline.
Okay.
So, like, Data just got in there, and Crusher is calling up to the observation lounge saying, hey, we need your help, Data. so he's got to go.
In the lab, Data discreetly shows Dr. Crusher a spot on his lower back, which he describes as a switch, and they're and they're pull it together, and they're whispering and looking around them like it's clear Data doesn't want everybody to know about this switch. So he's like, listen, if I blue screen, just hold in this button for a few seconds to perform a hard shutdown, then press it again to power me back on. It's actually very bad for me, but you'd be surprised how often it has to be done.
So yeah, she's feeling him up in the corner when nobody's watching, and she promises not to mention the off switch to anyone. She gives him her word.
He tries to tell a joke, though. He's like, Crusher's feeling him up, and she feels these little protrusions coming out and asks what they are, and Data says, an android alarm clock. Is that amusing? That is not amusing, Data.
He's trying to tell a joke.
Yeah,
Poor guy.
It did not work. But apparently, it has the function of tracking how long he is unconscious for. So that's a seed that gets planted that probably pays off in an upcoming episode.
Argyle comes over. They're going to do some stuff to him, and they're basically asking his consent. He did say, yes, you can use me as a template if you need to figure out how this other thing works.
That's how I learned to code.
Oh,
When I started learning PHP, it was taking a script and taking it apart and learning the components of it and figuring out how to make it do that way. I have never sat down and started writing on a blank notepad. I always take something existing and modify it to make it do what I want it to.
Yeah, why start from scratch?
Yeah.
So in sickbay, they've got Data and this other, we don't give him a name yet.
No.
Lying on both side by side on a biobed, with the one with the thing over the torso.
I loved this bit of set.
Yeah. And they shot it from the top down, so we got to see both of them lying side by side, which is both Brent Spiner. But wasn't there an episode in TOS where they did that with Kirk, or am I misremembering?
There was one where Kirk was on the little spinny table, right?
Oh, maybe is that the one?
Or was it Spock? One of them was on the spinny table because it was going to make a clone of him. Remember? And that was shot from straight above too.
Maybe
So
that's what it was.
that's what you're thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is. Because I was like, this is just like that one episode.
So these biobeds that have the cover up over their chest, these ones have like an inlaid magnification lens. So we can see that Beverly has her hand in there all up in Data's guts. And she's like delicately making these connections inside his exposed abdomen. It's like they peeled the skin back sort of thing to expose the tech beneath.
And Argyle starts singing. You got microcircuitry here and fibroid connection there, and a here an android, there an android. Everybody's an android. Old MacDonald's had a farm. I'm sorry. So
I think okay, my punch up is the processor's connected to the coprocessor. The coprocessor's connected to the memory banks. The memory banks are connected to the hard drive. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
But this was a really neat effect, I thought, the way they were like shooting down through this lens, and you can see her working on Crusher's like, okay, let's close up as if it's just a routine surgery that she would do on anyone. But then you get to see like the abdomen skin thing is back in place, and she's like closing up the cuts or whatever, or the seams. I thought that was neat.
And then now they're just waiting to see what happens. Riker and Picard enter. No signs of consciousness yet.
Data gets up here, so he's conscious again. And there's an effect that they do here that did not play very well for me. They cut to a close-up of the other android, and instead of using that fake head, it's Brent, and you can see his eyes moving, and they're moving like fucking REM sleep behind his eyelids.
Oh, that's a human thing.
Like his eyeballs are moving a lot. And that made me think of when actors have to play a dead person, right? You're like laying under a sheet in the morgue, desperately trying not to breathe or move your body because you're dead. So you're Brent lying on the thing, you're playing Lore, and Lore's not awake yet. So you have to lie perfectly still, but his eyes were bouncing all over the place. And maybe he was awake that whole time. And that's why his eyes were moving, because as Picard wonders aloud, like, oh, I wonder which one of them was made first, the android on the bed's eyes pop open and he says he was. So he was awake. I think that was communicating he was awake the whole time. Yeah. And he says Data was made first, but they found him imperfect and I was made to replace him. Shit.
He does this face twitch as if he's glitching, and then he introduces himself as Lore.
If it feels awkward to be reminded that Data is a machine, just remember that we are merely a different variety of machine. In our case, electrochemical in nature.
Before we get into Act 3, I thought it was really clever the way they used the names of these androids to convey information in a way that teenage me never caught, and that is that in the English language, lore refers to the traditional knowledge, stories, and myths passed down within a culture, often like verbal passing down, where data represents concrete facts and measurable information. And I feel kind of stupid for not really getting that at first.
Well, now I feel stupid because I didn't get it. I didn't until you said something.
Well, I knew I couldn't have been the only one. But yeah, I didn't get that until just now, really.
Amazing. I love that. I love that little Easter egg thing.
So we join Picard and Data in the middle of a one-on-one in the ready room, where Picard continues to use it pronouns when talking about Lore. And Data finally stops him and is like, you continue to refer to him as an it. That suggests that I, too, fit into the category of thing, not person. And Picard apologizes. Allie, when did Star Trek get so woke? Pronouns.
Yeah, he apologizes there, but...
Yes, well, yeah, put a pin in that.
I appreciate that he apologized because he feels like... I know they recognize Data is an android, but they also have developed feelings toward him. So
yeah,
that's where all this uncomfortable humanist comes from, is that they use it when they're talking about lore, not realizing that they're sort of putting Data in a category too.
What we know so far is that Lore was given some colonists' memories too, and his physical and mental abilities are likely equal to Data's.
And then also they point out, which they're going to point out several times, Lore's use of syntax and grammar is more human-like by using contractions like can't and don't. And Picard preps him for a question he's about to ask. He's like, I have to ask you a serious question. And Data already knows what he's going to ask. He's going to want to question his loyalty to Starfleet.
Data assures Picard that his loyalty is completely with Picard and Starfleet. Smash cut to this motherfucker dressed up like Charlie X sitting at Data's station, getting a complete tutorial in navigation and helm control from Geordi. What the fuck, you guys?
What the fuck? I know. Like, hey, come on the bridge. We don't know anything about you. We have no security protocols. Let's teach you how to drive the fucking ship.
Holy shit.
He's wearing a little bit of a different uniform than Data. It's just same color, but just that ugly mustard.
You know what it looked like to me? Kind of a Carhartt, like, overalls.
Carhartt? What's
Yeah.
Carhartt?
What? Oh my God, Allie.
What? I don't know what that is.
You will when you see it.
Searching.
Carhartt overalls.
Oh, those. I didn't know what they were called.
Yeah, Carhartt's the brand name. Data steps out of the ready room to see this whole thing go down. Wesley adds some information about the other 360-degree axis, and Lore seems like he's learning navigation for the first time. He's like, oh, so by ordering a heading so many degrees this way and so many degrees this other way, you can travel in any direction, like all three dimensions. Neato!
Yeah, yeah.
But then Riker throws him a curveball and says, and the square of the hypotenuse of a right triangle? And
Isn't
Lore,
that a song? Is it the
I bet
square
there's a
right of the
song.
hypotenuse of something? Don't know. This is weed talking. But isn't there a song, the square root of the hypotenuse? Or
Searching.
Holy fuck, there's a song.
I thought there was.
I have never heard of this.
The square of the hypotenuse of a right triangle is equal to the sum of the squares of the two adjacent sides. You not tolerate letting your participle dangle.
What the fuck?
I knew there was a song. I could not remember it.
That is fucking crazy, man. So this was a trap, right? Riker set him up for this, and Lore's like, quickly completes the problem, is equal to the sum of the square of the other two. And then he goes like, shit, 2 something. I think maybe. I mean, I think I heard
somebody
it.
told me. Yeah, somebody told me. I that's when you don't want to seem too smart, and he realizes he's shown them just how much he knows.
And then his face twitches again. So that was a little gotcha moment. Well done, Riker. Then Data reminds everybody that the captain hasn't given permission for Lore to be on the bridge in the first place. He's like, what is this? Star Trek, the original series?
I'm glad Data, he's the party pooping brother, but he's right. Wesley he concurs that, yeah, there's a lot of rules that need to be learned. But Lore takes it in stride. He calls Wesley a clever boy, and he's excited to go perform his assigned duties.
Whatever those are.
But then the crew does this thing that people do to you, and I don't know if this has happened to you, when they meet your siblings and they like compare you right in front of you. Worf goes, were you ever this anxious to please, Data? Has that not happened to you and your siblings?
Nope.
Oh man, somebody knows what I'm talking about, because this happened to me a lot.
So Worf asks Data if he was ever this eager to please, and Tasha's like, I'll say.
Oh my.
She probably wants to know if Lore is fully functional as well.
Data judges Lore to be superior in this regard, and Lore says, because I was designed to be so human, my brother. I enjoy pleasing humans.
And then they comment on the whole my brother. That's nice. That's a nice sound, Data.
Data and Lore leave into the turbo lift, and as they exit into a corridor for a walk and talk, and this is where it really hit me, the incredible talent and skill of both Brent Spiner and Brent Spiner and the production team, because this is the old Parent Trap trick, right? The same actor playing both parts in the same shot, and they execute it so well.
Yep. Data says, you realize that Commander Riker was trying to trick you, and Lord didn't get it, and he sort of insults Riker in such a backhanded way that I thought was hilarious. He's like, he didn't seem that clever. I'll have to be more careful.
It's also like Data giving Lore all this information about his friends and crew, so that he can pull off
Manipulate
this thing
it
better. Yeah. Lore says, "You do care about how I perform. I pledge to be worthy of your teaching, my brother. Try not to be jealous of my abilities." And this, we also have to talk about, is the scene where this is a very famous meme scene where the Data and the Lore in the hallway that gets used a lot in the meme world. Inside Data's quarters, Data says, "So if your mom is my mom and my dad is your dad, and we're both born on October 11th, then you and I are like sisters." And Lore says, "Sisters? Data, we're twins." Data starts pulling encyclopedias off the shelf. And when Lore asks what he's looking up, he says, "Everything available on Dr. Noonien Soong." And Lore, who clearly knows a lot more about Soong than Data, is like, "Oh, good old often wrong Soong."
He was the brother that had the toxic relationship with the parents, and Data knows nothing about it. This was long before Data was born, or something like that. So he doesn't have anything good to say about Soong.
Well, they talk about how Soong was a genius by human standards, but he was making these crazy promises about this positronic brain, and he kept failing. So, his reputation was fucked.
But he finally did it, as Lore, taps his own temples. He did make the positronic brain, which makes both of them possible. And then he kind of switches the subject, and he's like, when can I get a Starfleet uniform like yours? And then Data goes to say, well, if you really want one, you have to go about it the way everyone would go about it. You've got to do 4 years at the academy, 3 as an ensign, and 10 to 12 varied space duty. Lore just talks about this system is designed to compensate for limited human ability. He's like, look at us, we're not the same as them.
This really starts off a character trait of Lore that we see again beyond this episode. Spoiler alert. Sorry for that.
Yeah. The superiority.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, look at us. We could have the memories of thousands or millions, not just the few hundred that we've got, and the knowledge of hundreds of millions of life forms. And look at us. We're awesome. Data wants to know, well, how? And then Laura's like, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But then Data says, which I'm so glad. I was worried that that Lore had completely pulled the wool over his eyes. But Data says, Data asks Lore which of us was constructed first, because Data did know that he was lying, and Lore does fess up. He says, "Yes, I did lie when I said you were made first, but it was good reason." And he again starts pontificating about how he's so superior. Dr. Soong made me perfect in his first attempt, but he made me so human that the colonists were jealous.
The colonists petitioned Soong to create a more comfortable, less perfect android, Data. Lore's evidence of this order of android operations is his use of contractions where Data does not, as long as you don't watch any of the last 12 episodes, because he definitely did. And humor, too. And Lore sings, "I say tomato, you say tomato." See? It's funny, but you don't get it, do you, Data? So yes, very much superiority complex going on here. And Data even kind of agrees. He's like, yep, you are superior. I keep struggling to be more human, and I keep failing. And Lore says, well, don't you realize I can help you achieve that dream? I can help you become more human. And Data lops back, do you realize, Lore, that I have to fucking report everything you've said so far to the captain?
I was like, yes.
Lore walks over to Data sitting at his workstation and asks if he can use this terminal to learn more about this vessel and its customs. And Data's like, sure, my password is on a sticky note at the bottom of the monitor. Again, what the fuck, you guys? Don't let him access the computers.
No.
We're teaching him bridge stations. We're letting him access the secure files. Get the fuck out of here. And Data asks him to write a report for Picard on everything he knows about living with the colonists and what happened to them, and Lore promises a greatly detailed and accurate report. And if you hadn't figured out yet that Lore is evil, Data's headed out the door like, cool, listen, I gotta go to work unless you need a little something more. And the darkness falls in the room and the camera pushes in close to Lore, and he says, I have more than I dreamed possible, brother. So he's evil. And then when Data leaves, Lore turns the computer on and starts accessing information rapidly, like we've seen Data do before.
Yeah.
As the danger music swells to commercial.
I enjoy pleasing humans.
Oh, you jewel, that's exactly what I hoped.
The captain's log indicates that they've been busy during that ad break because Lore's report has been turned in and studied, so we know what happened to the colonists. And between Lore's info and that child's drawing, they have loaded up AutoCAD to create a 3D render, and we see this massive snowflake-looking thing. Picard calls it a great crystalline entity which feeds on life, capable of stripping all life from an entire world. Tasha wonders aloud how Data and Lore survived the entity's attack, and Riker explains that Lore was in pieces because the colonists were jealous of his tight ass and washboard abs, and Data was powered down laying on a stone slab outside, so no life detected. And Soong had left a beacon behind, alerting Starfleet to his great success in robotics, the positronic brain.
Brain and brain? What is positronic brain?
While they're talking, Tasha mentions that Lore left Data's quarters quite a while ago. Thank you! At least somebody is monitoring this week's evil guest. Apparently, he went to Deck 4, where he examined some micro-miniature work tools. Is that like tiny little wrenches for those micro machines I had as a kid? Do you remember micro machines? No, this was definitely a generation gap. So fucking micro machines. These micro machines were like these little tiny, like, Matchbox cars. Think like a third the size of them, like tiny of a Matchbox car, little small cars and all kinds of different things. There are Star Trek micro machines as well. I used to have them, of course, part of my collection back in the day. Didn't know. But Micro Machines is well known for this fast talking commercial. So here we go. This is the Micro Machine Man presenting the most minuscule miniature motorcade of micro machines. Each one has dramatic details, terrific trim, precision paint jobs, plus incredible Micro Machine pocket playsets. There's a police station, fire station, restaurant, service station, and more. Perfect pocket portables to take any place. And there are many miniature playsets to play with, and each one comes with its own special edition Micro Machine vehicle and fun, fantastic features that miraculously move. Raise the boat lift at the airport marina. Man the gun turret at the army base. Clean your car at the car wash. Raise the toll bridge. And these playsets fit together to form Micro Machine World. Micro Machine pocket playsets. So tremendously tiny, so perfectly precise, so dazzlingly detailed you'll want to pocket them all. Micro Machines and Micro Machine pocket playsets sold separately from Galoob. The smaller they are, the better they are. That's the commercial.
Jesus Christ. Never heard of that, ever. Wow. Never heard of this shit.
What's his name? John Machida?
Searching.
Is this the guy that was started out like on all these talk shows talking fast?
I don't know. I have to look him up.
It had to be like in the 90s. And they would he did have a mustache. He kind of looks like him.
I think maybe this was the one that I just did. This was like the original. And it shows, so there are the play sets were these like square locations, and there was a car wash and a auto mechanic and like a grocery store and all the places, right? And the pieces, the base was like an inch thick, and it was hollow underneath, and it folded in half, so you could take all the little pieces off, all the houses and all the props and all the things, put it inside and close this thing up, this clamshell case, and take it with you. It was portable. That was the whole, like, not that we did that with them, but then they also each one connected together so that the roads connected, and you could make this
Holy shit,
any
like
kind
worlds.
of city. Yeah. Oh yeah, huge. So I think this is the original one.
John Machida, fast talking 80s guy. That is him.
Yeah.
That's because I think he did more than that commercial, and he was the known as the fast talking guy, and he was on a bunch of talk shows.
So there you go. That's Micro Machines. Welcome to my childhood.
That's nuts. I've never heard of it.
Okay, so what were we talking about? Oh, right. Laura examined.
I don't know.
I do. I remember. Laura examined some Micro Machine tools.
Oh, yeah.
And some fine grind quadratanium. What? What? Remember the quadrotriticale?
Triticale?
The what? The wheat?
The wheat? It's the wheat. It's more wheat. Well, Data doesn't find that this is suspicious, but he's going to check it out. And then Crusher says, "You're watching everything he does. That's not very brotherly, Data." And Picard just steps up and defends him, and he says it's the act of a Starfleet officer obeying his captain.
Data leaves on a turbo lift, and Tasha asks Picard, speaking strictly as security chief, how much can we really trust Data now? And the camera cuts around the bridge so much here.
Everyone turns around and gives him that look. Wesley, Geordi, everybody's like, the music, I will say, the music in this episode was, to me, hilarious.
I agree. Eventually, Picard says he trusts Data completely, and for Tasha's sake, he tells the rest of them that Tasha's question was reasonable and appropriate security question.
Again, he's just very much mindful of offending or smearing Data, offending Data at all. He is very protective of Data, which still, coming up, pisses me off. Anyway.
Back in Data's quarters, Lore is pouring out drinks, and there's a little vial sitting next to one of the glasses. So this is the old computer virus in the drink routine.
I was going to say, like, what kind of poison do you give an android? I'm like,
right?
And dude, androids don't need to drink anything.
Data's holding this glass. He drops the poison in, and that's when Data returns home. And Lore says, I have a brilliant beyond brilliant idea. I'm a genius. Data, wake up. You're related to a bona fide genius. Data says, what are you raving about? Lore says, you want to know what Dad is like, right? And I'm dying to know Mom. So what I'm thinking is, oh man, this is so brilliant, it's scary. I think we should switch places. When camp's over, I leave as you and go back to London, and you leave as me and go back to California.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Laura says, lesson number 1 in becoming more human is to act more like them. Celebrate their ancient rituals with them, like maybe a toast. And he hands Data the Mickey, and they raise their glasses. And Laura
the roofie?
The roofie.
The roofie glass.
They raise their glasses, and Laura continues, speaking of toasts, I'd like to make a couple. Toast our discovery of each other. May it fill our lives with new meaning. And Data drinks from the glass.
He starts to talk, and in mid-sentence, he starts to feel a little bit weird. And then he says, my brother, like as if he realized what he's done.
Oh my God, right.
What have you done? I love the fact that Data is so smart and picks up on most things, but is fairly innocent when it comes to this relationship with Lore. He's very, very unsuspecting.
Yeah, he would never have considered that there would be any kind of ulterior motive or like evil bone in Lore's body or whatever. Yeah.
Because that is very human to do something like that, and he still thinking of his brother as an android like him.
Lore continues his evil monologue.
Doofenshmirtz Evil Incorporated!
And let us toast also Dr. Soong, who gave me the full richness of human needs and ambitions, a perfect match for my mind, my body. Data collapses at this point, barely able to squeak out, "Brother, help me."
And this motherfucker is still talking.
Mm-hmm.
As he's on the floor, he's like, and let us also toast the great crystal entity with whom I've learned to communicate. But before Dr. Soong disassembled me, I earned its gratitude by revealing the way to the colonists. Can you imagine its gratitude when I give it the life on this vessel? So I guess maybe that's the answer, is he called them, then they disassembled him,
Right.
and
then the entity showed up anyway and killed everybody else.
yeah.
On the bridge, Worf picks up a subspace transmission coming from Data, and Riker wants to believe that it's just related to his research on Dr. Soong, but just to be sure, he sends young Wesley down to check in on Data on the DL.
And Wesley's like, yes, a mission.
How do we talk about this going forward? Because Lore has now swapped clothes and is cosplaying as Data.
Lore Data.
And
I guess we'll call him Lore Data.
Lore Data and Datalore.
Or Data. Yeah.
I don't know. That'll confuse me, I think. I don't know. We'll figure it out. He's making a phone call to the crystalline entity, telling it where to find them and that it will be able to identify him as the android Data.
We'll just call him Evil Data. Bad Data.
I think in my
we'll
notes,
call him Bad Data.
I think I still used Lore and Data to be who it was, regardless of what they were wearing.
Yeah.
So, for example, the doorbell rings and Lore, who's cosplaying as Data, Lore hangs up and says, "Come in, please." And in comes Wesley, who sees the android body, Data in Lore's clothes, on the floor powered down. And Lore starts making shit up. Look,
oh man,
Lore found out we were tracking him and he jumped me, so I had to shut him down. But like most villains, he's a little sloppy and leaves some clues behind. Namely, the facial twitch goes off while he's talking to Wesley. And then he tries to backpedal and be like, I was just imitating Lore. How did I do, And Wesley's like, maybe don't do that.
But Wesley goes and tells him, if you had done this, I would have thought you were dead,
Yeah,
and he's like, if you had said we've been using the sensors instead of we, I might have suspected you were Lore.
And both of these things end up as like Wesley unwittingly helping Lore blend in better, because he's saying like, here are two things that you need to know about how I would tell Lore from Data.
Right, exactly. So Lore's like, I'm going to come to the bridge and report on what's happened. And once Wesley leaves, Lore, is this when he starts kicking him or no?
Well, he gets a sonic screwdriver from the drawer. And
wrong series.
And he fixes the twitch. He takes the twitch away from his face and puts it onto Data. On the bridge, Mother Crusher asks Son,
Mother Crusher. Love it.
Tell me one more time, how did Data say he immobilized Lore? And Wes is like, he said he just turned him off. And remember, Beverly's the only one that knows about the HP power button. So when Lore in Data cosplay enters the bridge 3 seconds later,
AKA bad data. You've got bad data. It's bad data, right? We don't want bad data. We got to clean up our data. Corrupt data.
Oh, damn. Crusher confronts him. I thought you swore me to secrecy about your off switch. And Lore says, well, I changed my mind. I can trust the bridge crew, right? No time to dwell on this, though, because Geordi's got a bogey coming in hot. No ID. The camera lingers on Lore because this is the encounter that he has arranged.
Fuck.
Shields up, yellow alert, friendly greetings on all frequencies and such, and on screen we see the crystalline entity for the first time racing towards them.
Riker's like, I can't believe it's taking us over this fast. And Corrupt Data says, beautiful, isn't it? And then right then and there, Wesley looks at Corrupt Data in shock.
Big suspense build up as we go to commercial, with the crystalline entity quickly catching up to the Enterprise. And I thought it was interesting that they were like, oh my God, I can't believe it's overtaking us. When the very first episode of this series, there was a Q orb chasing them that overtook them very quickly.
Okay, yeah, stop it with the fake alarm. Like,
Yeah.
lots of stuff can overtake you.
I say tomato, and you say tomato. I say potato, and you say potato.
We get a nice space shot showing the massive scale of the crystalline entity. It is enormous. It's so big, it makes the D look tiny.
Hate it when that happens.
Oh my God. Fucking Geordi again. Geordi steps off the turbo lift, having obviously been sent down to a window to get a good look with his visor.
Yeah.
Again.
It says it's like a giant snowflake, but more complex. He talks about the electromagnetic spectrum that I guess he can only see with his visor, and he doesn't know what it is.
Unfortunately, the writers have now set up Wesley to be the one who's figured out the parent trap, and because he's just a kid, nobody believes him. Picard wants corrupt Data to try to get some answers out of Lore, and Wesley stands up and says with his whole chest, "Don't trust that motherfucker." I was so proud of Wesley in this moment and
Me
so
too.
disappointed in the adults.
Absolutely.
It's not easy to stand up and hold your own in a situation like this. Like, first of all, you're in the fucking military. It's not just adults who are, ignoring you or not believing you or whatever, but these are like senior officers and you're just a little fucking peon. And so
Yeah.
to stand up and be able to like speak your mind like this, I was so proud of Wesley.
And he did it in a very respectful way. He says, Captain, I recommend that you do not let him roam the ship freely. And he gets reprimanded slightly for that. But then corrupt Data says, Wesley's only showing himself to be alert and responsible.
Which was another like nod back to earlier when Lore was heaping praises on Wesley. That's another tell that this is Lore and not Data.
Yeah. And he's like, you can have him come with me and he can watch everything I do.
Yeah. So Riker jumps in front of this bullet. Picard's going at Wesley hard. And Riker jumps in front of that bullet and he's like, I'll take responsibility for the kid. He and I will go together. So corrupt Data, Riker and Wesley head back to Data's quarters. And corrupt Data really slathers it on thick here. He points out the twitch. See, he's twitching just like Lore. And then he's like, we might have problems because you guys are in the room. And, if Lore senses others are near, then and then he delivers on that prophecy immediately by like rapidly mashing Data's on and off switch.
Of course, nobody can see where his hand is. So he's like clicking and Data is twitching.
Yeah.
And the story that he tells Riker and Wesley is that, he's going to attack.
Yeah. See, I was right. He can tell y'all are here. You got to go. You got to get out of this room.
Such a bullshit story.
Yep. Riker is very quick to leave the room, though. Lore promises he's going to record the whole thing. And Riker, like, grabs Wesley by the chest, and they're out of there.
And then corrupt Data, he's just being an asshole to his unconscious brother on the floor. He's talking to him and saying, and you want to be as stupid as them, and look how stupid they are, and then kicking him in the head.
And then the cut back to Data, unconscious on the floor, and he has this little flap in his skin on his face that's popped open, revealing circuits and USB connectors underneath.
One day, when I have time, I really want to do a female Data.
Yeah.
Like, I want to get the right makeup to color my skin the right way. Eye contacts and maybe even a circuit thing like that
would be
and
cool.
a uniform and have like a female Data.
That would be so cool.
One day when I have time.
Well, they're extending the retirement age. They're going to move the retirement age to later. So when the fuck do you think we're going to have time for anything?
Yeah.
But I digress. Riker and Wesley return to the bridge, and Riker starts summarizing the previous scene for Picard. But again, Wesley speaks up and suggests, hey, look, we've been parent trapped. But that just pisses Picard off again, and he's about to go all drill sergeant on Wesley's ass when Geordi reports that the situation with the entity is changing. Now it looks like it's brushing up against the the shields of the Enterprise. I think this is like the first time we see that effect, right? Where we see the shield at the front of the ship sort of glowing.
Yeah, the spiky things are hitting the shield, but they're right now they're holding, but don't know for how long. Picard says to bring up the photon torpedoes, and they go to red alert, and they're ready to fire at Picard's command. But then corrupt Data comes in, and he wants to talk to it. And Picard's like, "Wait, you didn't say you could do that." But fine, you go ahead if whatever is going to get us out of the situation. So corrupt Data has Tasha open hailing frequencies, and he starts talking to it. And he's like, crystal form, I identify myself as Data. And that's because he gave them a message earlier. I'm advising you to stop your attack. The humans are so powerful, capable of injuring or even destroying you. And so the attacking stopped, and everybody's impressed.
Corrupt Data then suggests a plan to demonstrate this super powerful lie he just told by going down to the cargo bay and beaming up a big tree or something, and then beam it out next to the entity and then destroy it with their weapons. And again, this suggests that in order to transport something off the ship to a different location off the ship, you have to first beam it to the ship and then beam it back out.
I don't know.
Anyway, Picard says make it so, and Lore isn't familiar with Picard's quirky way of saying yes, please just go do the thing.
And then because he doesn't understand, Wesley jumps up and says, and that explains the abrasion on your palm. I know you know that movie.
No.
Oh, it's Ace Ventura.
Oh, I hate
Pet
it.
Detective.
No.
I love that fucking show.
Anyway, I hate him in most roles. I am not a fan.
I like him in the stupid roles, like Ace Ventura.
Yeah.
But this is like, Wesley's like, jumps up, he's like, see? The real Data would have known exactly what Picard meant when he said, make it so. And Wesley jumps up and he starts, sir, I know this might finish me as an acting ensign, but, and this is where I have a problem with, Picard tells Wesley to shut up.
Yep. I think we are on the record very much against shut up, Wesley. I've talked about it on our social medias a few times, but like, I don't use the memes or the GIFs. And that's not just because of like how I feel watching it and hating every minute of it, but from reading what Will Wheaton himself said about that scene.
Right. Also, I cringe for some reason. I was always told to never tell someone shut up. Like when I was young, that is like the thing you never say to someone. And I think it's affected me, but I never tell, like, it's weird because I might say shut the fuck up, but I don't really, like, I don't say it to someone.
Right.
I say it in joking. I would never actually tell someone to shut up.
Yeah.
And Picard, after he says shut up, he does tell Tasha, go ahead and pick a good security team and follow corrupt Data.
And Beverly leans into Picard and she's like, shut up, Wesley? Is that how we talk to my son? But Wesley turns from his station again and he's like, and since I'm basically fired now, let me just say. And now Beverly turns and says, shut up, Wesley. Again,
yeah, don't do that.
No, I don't like it.
I hated it.
But good on Wes, because he didn't take either of their shit and stands up again and continues. Everything I've said would have been listened to if it had come from an adult officer.
100%.
Mic drop.
Obama.
And he's like, permission to leave this toxic fucking workplace.
And Picard says, yeah, but he tells his mom, Mother Crusher, to go with him. And she's like, oh, now you put me off the bridge? Oh, no, you didn't. But yeah, he's like, I'm just asking you to keep an eye on Wesley during all of this.
Worf leads a small security detail of a couple UC gold shirts down a hallway. And when he steps into the turbo lift, Lore is inside. And before the UCs can enter, he closes the doors and he easily kicks the heater out of Worf's hand.
Star Trek fight! Man, he spanks Worf so hard.
I mean, this is a 3-hit takedown. He knocks the heater out of his hand and he's like, come on, warrior boy, let's see what you got. And of course that gets Worf hard. So he starts swinging, but he only gets one swing, and then Lore just pop, and he's down.
I mean, I never saw that coming. Like, who can beat Worf in a fight? Fucking Data or Data's brother.
Meanwhile, Wesley has been apparently trying to convince his mom of this parent trap thing because the two enter Data's quarters. He's apparently convinced her to come check this android on the floor out. Wesley's convinced it's the real Data. And he's like, I hear you know how to turn them on. And Beverly says, actually, that's more Tasha's thing.
He didn't tell Tasha where the secret switch was.
There may be more than one secret switch. Hood? And Beverly's like, Wes, this is serious. We can't joke around about this. And Wesley's like, well, then just tell me to shut up again. And Beverly flips Data's switch and he sits upright, clearly running some you shouldn't have hard shut down your PC BIOS diagnostics.
But he's like, I can function sufficiently to stop Lore. So off they go. They switch over to the cargo bay, which is where Lore is. And he's talking to his old buddy, old pal, the crystal entity. He's telling the crystal entity what he's about to do. He's gonna signal that he's about to transport a tree, at which time the deflector shields are gonna drop, and then you can move in.
Dinner time.
Yeah, time to eat. But he doesn't realize that real Data, Crusher, and Wesley are sneaking into the cargo bay.
But as Data moves behind Lore, he gets caught. But Data says, how sad, dear brother. You make me wish I were an only child. And that sounds like that's very Lore speak. That struck me as odd coming out of Data. Like all of this dear brother stuff. Like,
and maybe that's what he meant by it. Like, oh, look, I'm trying to be like you, but maybe in a sarcastic way. This is the language you understand.
Speaking of only children, I mean, at least at this point in the series, Wesley's here too, and Lore starts talking about this troublesome little man-child. Are you prepared for the kind of death you've earned? Very like callous and devious. Lore clearly has no care for human life at all.
No, but Crusher steps in and
oh my God, she jumps out from behind a barrel with her heater and goes, freeze, motherfucker!
You take one step towards my son, I will cut your ass down. But Lore, he's like marveling at, motherhood and feelings and how the humans are weak and, because of all that. But Lore grabs Data and pushes him into Crusher and he takes her weapon. And so, fuck. So Lore's got the upper hand now. He's telling everybody to back off. He's threatening to shoot Wesley if she doesn't back away.
Lore asks Data if he sees the advantages of being completely human now. He says it includes kindness, though he'll spare Beverly's life. And if she leaves quickly, he may not harm Wesley at all. But when she hesitates, he gives her to the count of 5 or he'll fricassee her son. And he is on the count of 4. And she's still ain't out the door yet.
She's moving towards the door, but then he decides to kind of like go back on his word. He's like,
hold up. One small payment for your son's misdeeds.
And then he shoots her anyway as she's exiting. And so she runs out and her fucking arm is on fire. Yes. Did you see that?
I noticed that too. But that gives Data the opening to jump Lore, kicking off another great Star Trek fight.
Star Trek fight!
They are all over this cargo bay, knocking over stacks of barrels and containers and throwing barrels at each other and shit. This was fun Star Trek fight stunt work.
They were throwing whole human beings, like Data threw Lore onto the transporter pad.
And he calls to Wesley to get to the controls as he flips Lore over onto the transporter pad. Lore gets on his feet, heater in hand, and just as the phaser beam starts to leave the heater, Wesley activates the transporter and Lore is beamed away.
And then just in time, the rest of the security crew comes in and...
The Keystone Cops?
Yeah.
Picard, Riker, Tasha, and Beverly, the Keystone Cops. Yeah. They come ripping in with their heaters out like they're on a cop show about to clear a building, how they do. And Wesley's like, I already handled it, guys. Lore's gone.
LAPD! And they're all gone.
So Beverly rushes to embrace Wesley, and for some unnecessary reason, Picard sends Beverly back to sickbay now that Wesley is safe. You need to get back to work, I guess.
Picard asks if Data's okay, and he says, "Yeah, I'm fine," but he does twitch. But because that's what Lore did to him. But he's like, "Get rid of that damn twitch and put your correct uniform on. No, thank you. Glad you're all right," or anything like that.
Then he asks Wesley if he's able to return to duty. No apologies or thank yous or anything there.
Man.
And sends him back to the bridge to report that all is well.
I'm so mad. They should have fucking apologized, Wesley.
Yep.
Like, everybody should have apologized to him.
The entity is left now, and Riker says, without Lore, it had no way to reach us. I hate to quibble in the last 30 seconds of an episode, but point of order, Your Honor. Again, this is the timeline. Lore had already communicated to the crystalline entity that when the transporter activates, the shields will drop and it's open season on humans. The entity would have detected the shields down the transporter, open season on humans.
Yeah.
There's no reason it would have waited for Lore to go now or whatever, right? Like,
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
Well,
it is.
Our final moment is Picard and Riker remarking on whether Data is more or less human than they'd prefer, as if it's fucking up to them. But Riker says he wishes humans were as well balanced as Data. Off to the next adventure.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'll be glad to be relieved of this cargo.
Me too.
It is done, and perhaps just as well.
Yeah, but you know, I learned something today.
I sincerely hope that this is the last time that I find myself here.
You just don't get it, do you, Jean-Luc? You see, of all the species, yours cannot abide stagnation. Change is at the heart of what you are. That is the exploration that awaits you. Not mapping stars and studying nebula, but charting the unknown possibilities of existence.
This is a classic TNG episode that introduces this Adam and Stuart Chandler from All My Children Evil Twin shit. You remember Adam and Stuart?
I didn't watch All My Children,
man.
But I think they had
I mean, every show
the
had
same
one.
thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, As the World Turns had, I think, Marlena and her sister, her twin sister,
Marlene,
who
right.
she actually did have a twin sister in real life, and a bunch of other. They love this trope in the soaps.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
just because you have a twin, why is the other one got to be evil?
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know.
Yep. And again, soap opera in space.
Mm-hmm.
So using non-humans to reflect and inspect humanity, right? Lore may be more human, which unfortunately includes all of the not so great things about humanity.
Mm-hmm.
The selfishness and greed and superiority complexes and all of that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't answer this in this episode, which I like. This is an ongoing thing that we're going to be thinking about. Is going forward, how will this impact Data's desire to be more human? Will he still have this desire and dream to chase after humanity?
Yeah. And then that sense of like we do it today, like we go through these ancestry tests and try to figure out like who we're related to,
Mhm.
but that sense of identity, like that we somehow need as humans,
Yeah.
and that connection, and that Data didn't even know he wanted, but then now that he thought he had a brother, it was like, oh wow, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But still, he didn't trust him.
Right. It kind of showed Data the possibilities.
Yeah.
I first hated the tension about whether this new android is a he or an it.
Mm-hmm.
And it really struck me as something very recognizable from the trans experience.
Oh yeah.
And the whole pronoun, everything that's happening these days. But I came to love it because of the way they handled it.
I do love it.
Is
yeah.
the moment where Picard, Riker, Data, and Geordi are in the conference room. And
Mhm.
Picard does his whole like, yeah, we're different, but we're more alike than we are different. We're machines, just like them.
Yeah. And also, I felt like Geordi and Riker were like trying to make an effort. They didn't want to offend Data by calling it. So they were really uncomfortable with using it, but they didn't know how else to.
Right.
So that is very much like today, like whenever you know someone and then they transition and they say, okay, these are my pronouns now. And so they're like just trying to navigate that whole weird phase of how do I switch my brain over to call it, what do I call it, you know?
And in this case, that the answer, the thing to learn from it is that idea that we're more alike than we are different, and you're thinking about how different it is when the answer is actually really kind of simple.
Yeah.
I also appreciated the second scene where this comes up, as Picard and Data are in the ready room having just activated lore. And so at the beginning of this episode, the presumption was if lore isn't turned on, if there's no life there, then it's a thing and we call it it. But if he becomes conscious, now it's a person and we call him he, or whatever pronoun, that they would use. And Data calls Picard out for using the wrong pronoun. And I loved that because, again, to the trans experience, this is exactly how it should go down. If you call me he and I correct you, I use she or they pronouns. You apologize with sincerity like Picard. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry, Data. And we move on.
And you don't do it again.
And you don't do it again. Right. And I get why people do this. But it's not helpful to like go on and on like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And like walk all over yourself, apologize. Just say, sorry, I fucked up. I'll do better.
Right.
Right. But because usually that goes on to like, my gosh, this is so new to me. And
it's so hard. No, it's not that. It's really not that hard.
I don't really want to offend you, but it's hard. Yeah. Like, and that centers you rather than the trans person you've transgressed. So yeah, that's not really helpful.
Come on, it's not that hard because people change their name all the time. You just do it.
Yeah, but to your point, apologize and then make a recognizable, noticeable effort to change going forward.
Yep. Don't make it about you.
Go.
Well, okay. No, the only thing I wanted to say was how they underestimate Wesley all the time. And this is just a gripe more than it is a humanist theme. It's just like fucking maybe they did that for a reason of underestimating the young person, because Wesley had a point. He said, if I'd been an adult, you would have believed me. And so I think we should not discount our young people and what their thoughts and their feelings.
I connected with that really hard as a parent of a teenage know-it-all. And like, while I don't tell him, shut up, Wesley, there are plenty of times that I hear him declare a truth so confidently. And my gut reaction is like, don't believe everything you see on YouTube, kid. Like, I know that you're just talking out of your ass.
Yeah.
Confidence without the actual knowledge. But maybe that's not a great way to react.
But now they're not always going to be right, but I think they always need to be whatever they're saying to you needs to be considered,
right?
Instead of just shut up. That just shuts them down. And guess what? Next time they have something important to say, they're not going to fucking tell you.
Yep.
So if you treat them like that, then
yeah. But as much as I hate all the telling Wesley to shut up, again, I did feel like some intense pride in Wesley.
Oh,
for like standing up for himself and speaking up regardless. Like, he's a teenager in his first job, and he could get fired for this, but he's like, I will be heard.
And how many times has he saved their fucking lives so far?
Right.
At least 3. This is maybe the 3rd time when they should have listened to him and they didn't.
Yep. What I hate is that neither Picard nor Beverly ever apologize or make any kind of amends with Wesley for being dicks to him.
None.
It's implied at the end when Picard is like, can you return to duty?
See it.
But no, that's not enough. I need it.
the same Picard who was so empathetic towards Data, and he seemed so woke and everything, and empathetic. When it comes to Wesley gets just wiped the floor with.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, apologize to the kid. So, yeah, I have a problem with that.
Did anybody die in this episode?
Nope.
Well,
because
do we know?
Data Lore, we know Lore didn't die.
We know that, but you're just trying to get out of having to write shit.
No, because I'm gonna have to Kendrick Lamar it, you know.
Oh God. I mean, they beamed him out into space, and we don't know what happened.
Yeah,
That's
but we
where it
know.
ends.
We know.
Shh! Don't tell them.
Like, is there anyone out there who is a Star Trek fan and has never watched TNG?
Oh, I think so. I think there are people watching this for the first time.
Man.
Yeah.
Like, never heard of it? Like,
well, you've heard of it, but haven't seen it.
Yeah, but there are shows that I haven't watched, but I hear about it so much that I feel like I know the main plot points, and I and I never, I know, that Glenn gets his head bashed in on Walking Dead. I did not, and I stopped watching long before that because I couldn't take it. You know what I mean? So, even though I didn't watch the whole series, you know what happens.
We can handle all the pleasantries later. Now, let's get down to business.
I am willing to pay handsomely for you.
I think you've had a little too much to drink.
Now, what do you know about my money?
Your money?
The money he stole!
You stole his money?
Those vouchers I gave you were every bit as good as Latinum.
You can spend Latinum almost anywhere. Those vouchers are only good at your bar.
As always, we want to thank all of our patrons. We especially want to give a big thank you to our founding admirals who support us on patreon.com/humanisttrek. They are Russell, Allie, Peter, Sarah, Sherry, and Bruce.
Bruce.
And this week, Allie, we have some new recruits coming on board. Let's welcome Lieutenants Horn and Howard.
Hi, Lieutenant Horn and Howard.
And here's a fun one, Allie. Omnivore moral realists prove moral realism isn't real.
Okay. Hey.
That.
Omnivore dude or dudette. Welcome. Thank you for being a patron.
Yes, thank you all for supporting the show.
Captain, Starfleet Academy is requesting an update on our estimated arrival.
Finalists, please take your seats.
I must admit you have a very fast mind. Once I realized it was a trick question, there was only one answer.
Although only one student will be chosen for the Academy, any of you could easily qualify. Candidates, good luck.
You got called to the superintendent's office. It's a story I'd like to hear.
All right. Becca's back now with the answer to this week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge for the episode Datalore. Remind us, what was the question?
What juicy gossip did Will Wheaton share about the stand-in actor they used to play opposite Brent Spiner?
What did we guess? Do you know? Did you write that
Sarah
down?
said the body double actor would go to events and sign autographs with Brent.
That's right.
And Allie said he hated Brent with a passion.
Or that he hated Star Trek, I think was her backup guess. I don't know. Anyway, those were probably wrong. What's the right answer?
Allie was kind of close, but not exactly.
The Admiral is definitely incorrect.
According to Will Wheaton, the stand-in actor used in this episode really irritated Brent Spiner and was never used again. He described the stand-in as looking like a break dancer doing the robot. That's what Brent said.
God.
Whenever he had to portray Data or Lore, and said, I think the guy was really into playing an android and his enthusiasm got cranked up to 11. But by the end of the week, pretty much everyone wanted to deactivate him and sell him to the nearest Jawa.
Oh,
that's hilarious.
Great. I didn't notice that during the episode.
What? Well,
it was the back of his head. What were you going to notice?
Well, there were some times when it was like the back of his body.
Yeah.
Like when you saw them both in frame.
See, and this in lies the issue with or the suggestion of watching it again. Now that
Yeah.
we learn all this stuff,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to watch it again. So you watched it before, you listen to the podcast, then you watch it again to look for
Yeah.
these things because I need to now watch it again.
Right?
So it wasn't that he hated Brent. It was that Brent hated him.
All right, well, next week we'll be reviewing Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 14, Angel 1, with special guest, actor from the episode, Leonard Crowfoot, will be joining us, and joins us today for the fun quiz game that we do. Allie, how much do you remember about this episode?
I just remember there's a lot of skin. I like that. There was skin, and it wasn't the females. It wasn't the females that were walking around in skimpy clothing, so that was nice.
Yeah, a little bit of a role reversal, right? Okay, Becca, hit us. What's the question?
Angel 1 is one of several matriarchal societies in the Trek universe. How many others can you name?
What?
Are you kidding?
This is ridiculous. And ask the question you were going to ask earlier that we all know the answer to.
Oh,
Do that one instead.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Leonard Crowfoot is the special guest in this episode. How many other Trek episodes was he in?
A total of 3. We got it right. Woo, we win.
We know that. 3.
Okay, matriarchal societies.
Or planets. That was something I found in my research. Was some of them were referred to by planet, and some were named societies or species. So whatever you can name.
So is the question how many, or do we have to name them?
You get a point for everyone you can name.
Okay, I have one. I only have one. And that is name checked in this episode, I believe, because we watched ahead. Deanna Troy says, "Oh, this place reminds me a lot of my home world."
Oh.
Beta Z.
Beta Z.
That's
You're
the only.
right.
That's the only one I have, though.
I can't remember any. I mean, apparently there must be more than 2.
Yeah.
Okay, total in all Star Trek series is
in the universe.
Oh,
it's Star Trek universe. Women. So maybe that includes the what is it? The those priests in Discovery. What are those women? I can't remember the names of them.
Kawat Malat.
Kawat Malat.
I can't believe I just pulled that out of my head.
Kawat Malat. Okay, because you pulled it out of your.
See, Leonard,
yeah.
this is how it is. We have no idea. We're just making shit up here.
Me neither. The Kawat Malat, they're pretty much female.
You could shake out a bag of Scrabble letters and get close, is what I'm saying.
Kawat Malat and this one from Angel 1.
And Beta Zs. Betazoids.
And yeah,
you don't
I
get
don't.
a point for this episode, Allie.
We have 2. I think we've named 2. Leonard, do you have any idea? Anything to add?
I don't know.
No, I don't either.
I have no idea.
It's ridiculous.
Okay.
All
yeah.
right. Well, if you want to play along, you know how to do that. Head out to your social media, share this episode, use the hashtag Starfleet Challenge. Get it wrong like us. We'll pick out a winner. And next time on Humanist Trek, we'll be talking about Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 14, Angel 1.
Glory to your house.
Make it so, number 1.
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcast. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/humanisttrek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.